All right, so today's just going to be a bunch of practice. So get out your brains and your calculators, and we'll just do some practice. So which of the following items determines the disposition of unclaimed wages? These are often known as escheatment laws. And I do know someone who took this course in the spring, took the exam in the spring, the CPP exam in the spring of this year. She mentioned she had questions on this, so keep that one in mind. Oh, and put your name in chat for attendance. And yes, you guys are awesome. It is A, state law determines those, federal doesn't care. So that's a good one. Number 52, there's many different ways to do this. So pick your favorite. An employee is terminated with 3 workdays remaining in a month. The employee earned an annual salary of and was paid monthly. With what does the regular compensation do this employee for the final pay period? Again, many different ways to do this. Your way is probably not wrong. So do your thing, and we'll see if we come up with the same answer. My dog is snoring behind me, so I've tried to tell him to quiet down, but he's not always good at that. I agree with you guys. I got A as well. Like I said, many different ways to do this one. I personally figured out the regular rate of pay by taking 24,000 dividing by 2,080 hours and then multiplying by 3 days with 8 hours in them. So 24 hours. And that's the amount that she didn't get because she didn't work the last 3 days. So I did 1,000 minus that amount and I got the 723.07. There is a formula on the screen. It does similar to what I did, except that they, instead of going down to the hour level, they went to the day level. So that's what the 24,000 divided by 260 days is. So again, same idea, just a different way of doing the same thing. So whatever your fancy is, but I did get A as well. So Employee deferrals under section 401k are subject to which taxes? See some mixed answers on that one. Employee deferrals under section 401k are subject to Social Security, Medicare, and FUTA. So FUTA was kind of a tricky one on that one because that one is a employer tax that's associated with it, but so you don't necessarily always think about it, but it is part of the deferral. So again, if you are going and putting a deferral under a 401k traditional, then it's taxable for Social Security, Medicare, but not for federal or state because it's taxed later. What does it mean if at the end of an accounting period, a company has a debit balance in a liability account? So if our liability account has a debit balance, then the company has paid to a third party more than was withheld from the employees. So normally you would credit that account. If it has a debit balance, that means that when we paid it, we paid more than what's in it. If that makes any sense. All of the following factors are advantages of having an in-house developed payroll/HR system, except you guys are awesome. B, user groups. A payroll department manager should assure I'm definitely going with D. If anybody's not with me, then I don't know what's wrong with you guys. B, good job. Which of the following statements described a self-insured workers' compensation plan? You guys are awesome. The employer funds the workers' compensation payments. The proper handling of a stop payment includes all of the following steps, except it is a reversing the direct deposit. That's a different deal. And not that this is necessarily on the CPP exam, but NACHA changed the laws earlier this year, and you can't do reversals for direct deposits for all the same reasons that we used to. So just some interesting information to keep in the back of your heads for those of you that have the ability to reverse direct deposits. An employee is paid $10 per hour plus 10% differential for evening shifts. During the past week, the employee worked 24 hours on the day shift and 24 hours on the evening shift. Under FLSA, what are the employee's gross wages for the week? See lots of D's. So again, just keep in mind on this one, I always figure out the straight time, then figure out the regular rate of pay, and then figure out the overtime rate, and then multiply by the overtime hours, and then add together. So to figure out the straight time, we're going to do that 48 times 10, 48 hours times 10, and then that shift differential of $1 or 10% times 10 times the 24 hours gives us 504. So that's the regular amount that was paid. To get the rate of pay, we then divide by 48 hours. That gives us 10.5. And then if we multiply by 0.5, we get our overtime rate multiplied by 8 hours of overtime and add everything together. 546, is that what you guys got? There's many different ways to do that. So just because that's the way I did it does not mean that's the way it's right. It's just many different ways to skin this cat. So pick your favorite. Good job. All right, so here's a super long one. Sorry, the top of my slide is like cut off. Says using publication 15T worksheet 1, calculate the employee's withheld federal income tax based on the following data and information reported in the employee's 2021 Form W4. So this person's being paid weekly. They have vacation earnings of 360.62. They have regular compensation of 339.38. They have a 401k pre-tax deferral of $49. They're married, filing jointly. They have $125 entered in step 4C on their Form W4. And then we have our little answers there. Give you guys a couple minutes to go through it. There's your table. Sorry, I should have hit space bar one more time to give you your table. So if we look at this one together a little bit, to get our taxable wages, we're going to take the vacation he was paid, the regular he was paid, add those together, subtract out the 409k deferral for when we're calculating the federal withholding. When we're calculating FICA and Medicare or Social Security and Medicare, you would not take out that $49. But since we're looking at federal withholding, you'll take out that $49. So you get $651. So that's going to go on that top line. Enter the number of pay periods. He's weekly, so we're going with 52. Then we're going to multiply. So that's taking that amount that we paid him for the week, and we're going to annualize it, multiply it by 52. If the employee has submitted a Form W-4 for 2020 or later, then we're going to do the next section, which he has. Enter the amount from step 4A. They didn't tell us anything about step 4A, so we're going to put 0. We're going to then add. Enter the amount from step 4B. They didn't tell us anything about that, so we're going to put 0. If the box in step 2 is checked, then you're going to enter 0. If the box is not checked, enter 12(9) if the taxpayer is married filing jointly, or 8(6) otherwise. We're going to do 12(9) because they told us he was married filing jointly. Add together. And figure out our adjusted annual wage amount. We're then going to find the table, the row in the table that matches. We're going to put from column A of that row. Fairly certain there's an extra. Oh, no, it's fine. Sorry, I can't read. From column C of that same row, the percentage, it's going to be 10. Subtract B from A, multiply by the percentage. Add them together. And then divide. They did not tell us anything about any tax credits. But they did tell us he wants an extra $125 withheld. So if we add those two together, we get 141.83. Again, these aren't hard. They're just take time really is all they are. Take time and read. Read. All right, a request for proposal or an RFP can be used to Brandon, that was a good look. You're correct. Provide vendors with technical and functional system requirements. That's the whole point, is to tell them what your system can do. So, the Family and Medical Leave Act requires employers to maintain records for at least, this one was on yesterday, maybe? I don't know. This whole week is running together in my head. Yeah, it's 3 years. Good job. A non-exempt employee earns $400 per week for a normal schedule of 35 hours. Under FLSA, how much would this employee be due if 48 hours were worked? Again, do a little math. Make sure that you're keeping in mind keywords that are in the question. So if we figure out the regular rate of pay, we're gonna do 400 divided by 35, gives us 1143. If you figure out your straight time, you're gonna do 1143 times 48 hours. If you figure out your overtime, you're gonna do 1143 times 0.5 to get your rate, multiply by 8 to get your overtime premium amount, add the two together, and depending on how you rounded, 494 point something. I used my big fancy calculator and was bad and didn't round, and I got 25 cents instead of 36. So anyways, but it was close. So round as you go and you won't do bad things like I just did. So good job. Oops, I cheated. How may federal income tax be withheld from separation pay and accrued vacation wages totaling $20,000 that are paid at the time of termination and identified separately on the employee's pay stub? If the employee has been paid $25,000 so far this year and had income tax withheld from her most recent wage payment. If you were watching, I already cheated and gave you the answer. It's actually D. You can either do the optional flat rate or the aggregate method. So either way. That being said, if the employee had made over $1 million in supplemental wages, you would no longer have an option. You would have to use the mandatory supplemental rate, which is 37%. Payroll register for the pay period shows gross earnings of 300,000 and deductions of 120,000. The entry to the payroll expense account would be, don't let them trick you. You guys are awesome, not letting them trick you. Just because they tell you about deductions doesn't mean it doesn't decrease your expense at all. Your expense is still 300,000. Good job. Payroll system user documentation should include disaster recovery procedures. This is top of mind right now with the hurricanes that the South has been experiencing for many of them. I'm sure this is very top of mind. So yes, the disaster recovery procedure is very important. When checking for phantom employees, which of the following actions should be taken? Yep, C, make them come get them and make them prove to you who they are. So that's the best way to make sure you don't have any phantom employees out there. An employee is to be awarded a net bonus of $2,000 in supplemental wages in 2021. Year-to-date regular and supplemental earnings are $15,000. Using the current optional flat tax rate and Social Security and Medicare tax rates, what should be the gross up amount of the payment if the employee lives and works in a state with no income tax? So this is one of those ones where you can do the gross up calculation and get to an answer. You could also, in theory, look at the answers and try and work backwards and figure out which one gets you to $2,000. So neither way is wrong. Just pick your best method and then you can work to the answer from there. You guys are awesome. A is it. So again, you can work backwards through those since it's a multiple choice, or you can just do the gross up, which with those tax percentages is not too terrible. That particular problem was not crossing any wage limits or anything like that. So the gross up calculation is not horrible. So good job. Which form is used to request an EIN or an employer identification number? You guys rock. B, SS4, good job. One element of a payroll calendar is very good. Pay frequency. With online input, what is the best way to control miscellaneous payments? I would agree. D, a comparison of the online report totals to predetermined totals from the source documents. So for example, if somebody turned in receipts and you needed to reimburse them for those receipts, compare obviously the receipts to what the total was when you entered it online. All of the following actions demonstrate a strong customer service orientation except CPP. Like, I've never taken the FPC, so I can't speak to that one, but the CPP likes to do this accept thing. So they give you something and then they say accept. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind when you're reading these questions. Yep, good call. Using voicemail to answer phones is probably not super customer service oriented. Good job. Employer-sponsored athletic facilities may be non-taxable fringe benefits if what? Yep, the facilities are on the employer's premises. Good job. When an employer is advised by the IRS that an employee's Form W-4 is invalid, what action must the employer take? I feel like C has been a super popular answer. Yes, it's C. So you have to withhold based off of whatever the IRS, however the IRS is telling you to withhold. So make sure you follow those rules. A team comprised of members of a department staff with the intention of improving their own process is a man, and I just want to record your faces. It's C again, a functional team. They want to improve, they want to get better. They're a functional team. An employee who works for more than one employer and has exceeded the Social Security wage base may this goes back, Michelle, to a question I believe it was you that asked me at the beginning of the course, where if you had an employee that came in midway through the year and they'd already hit that wage base, you as the employer would not know, and you're required to withhold. So this is that exact same scenario that we had talked about back then. Yep, you guys are correct. It is A. So they would, when they file their federal tax return, it would show that they had overpaid in Social Security for the year, and thus they would request a refund on their personal income tax return on that form 1040. When determining the value of an employer provided parking, which of the following valuation methods is used? Employer's cost, employee's cost, lower of the employee's cost or the fair market value, or the fair market value. Yep, it's D, fair market value. What is the purpose of the payroll accrual entry? So that word accrual is the important piece of this question. Yep, we are going to accrue that information into the period in which the expenses were actually incurred. Good job. You guys are awesome. Which of the following steps is least important during the parallel testing phase of a new payroll system? Again, that keyword is least. Yeah, I would agree, absolutely. A, B, and C seem super, super important. And while I think that D is also important, we need to make sure we're calculating our wage attachments correctly. I think that A, B, and C are probably more higher priority. So all of the following practices are acceptable to an external auditor except, again, they throw that stupid except word in there. Yeah, you got it. Don't store your blank payroll checks in the payroll department. That's a dangerous thing to do. You know, them payroll people are so untrustworthy. All of the following types of compensation are subject to Social Security tax except it is D, workers' comp. If you are getting workers' comp benefits, it is not subject to Social Security tax. All those other things are subject to Social Security tax. The exception to that is kind of confusing as A. There is a threshold on tips, but it's less than 100. So I think that's where they're trying to trick you again. Which of the following outcomes is the primary advantage of developing an in-house system? Yeah, the employer controls the entire commuter system. And if they created it in-house, they're completely in control. An employee covered by group health insurance at the time his employment terminates to return to school is entitled to COBRA continuation rights for how many months? You guys rock. 18 months. Good job. How often are Form 940 taxable wages reported? Good job. Annually. Form 940 is an annual form only filed once a year after the fourth quarter is finalized. Another super long one, and I've cut the top of the slide off again. Let me read it to you. Sorry, I have to find it. An employee claims married and 2 withholding allowances on her 2019 Form W-4, is paid $1,700 bi-weekly and defers $50 per pay period to 401k plan. Use worksheet 1. What is the total of the biweekly deductions from the employee's pay for federal income, Social Security, and Medicare taxes? So this one, we're doing more than just federal. We're doing all of the taxes. And I'm going to help you with this one, especially because the top is cut off. So it's kind of hard for you guys to do the calculations. So we're taking the taxable wages this period is going to be $1,700 minus the $50 401k deferral. Again, this is when we're calculating federal income tax, not Social Security and Medicare. So our taxable is going to be $1,650. Sorry, it's going through my worksheet. Kind of slow. Okay, so there's my worksheet. $1,650 at the top, 26 pay periods. Multiply those together to get our annual annualized income. This person has a 2019 W-2, or I'm sorry, W-4. So we're going to come down to that bottom section of step 1. They're claiming 2 allowances. So we're going to multiply that by 4,300 and get 8,600. Subtract and get 34,300. We're going to go find that row in our table, put in the amount from column A, enter the amount from column C, enter the percentage, do some multiplication, add to C and to F, and then divide. So we annualized it, blew it up to a whole year, and then we sucked it back down, divided by 26 again to get it per pay period. This person doesn't have any additional or anything on their W-4, so that 8669 is going to be the federal withholding. To figure out FICA and Medicare, make sure that you do not subtract out that $50 401k. So you get $130.05. Add those two together and we should get $216.74. Again, these are not hard, they're just time consuming. On a company's financial statements, payroll tax expense appears in the balance sheet, accrued payroll, salaries expense, or income statement. Good job. Income statement. What is the chief advantage of a vendor payroll package? Well, if you go with a vendor payroll package, you're not going to have to develop anything in-house. Which of the following elements is essential to a disaster recovery plan? Yep. B, we have to have some sort of offsite remote location. Good job. Which of the following which of the following practices is a strong internal control procedure? My dog is really getting with it with his snoring. I apologize. D, good job. Have a person other than the person who requested and authorized the payments prepare the payroll checks. 2 people, double checks. During 2021, an employee worked for company A and quit after earning $150,000. Later in the same year, that employee was hired by company B. With respect to Social Security, Medicare, and FUTA, how should company B treat the employee's earnings as of the first wage payment? Good job. Again, going back to company B has no idea what that employee earned from company A and could never. So they're just going to start over withholding just like it was a brand new employee and they hadn't earned anything in the year. So good job. Which of the following documents proves an employee's identity and authorization to work? This is a total trick question, by the way. It is B, and it's because they asked for the document, not the form, which is horrible. That's a horrible trick question. So not nice to them, but that's the type of thing that they do to you. How are salaries reflected on the income statement? They are expenses. Good job. Salaries are an expense to the company. As much fun as this would be, I'm going to skip it and we're going to go to a couple of the gross up ones that I added for you guys. You can look at these absolutely. I know you have access to the PowerPoint. But since it's 12:50, let's go look at these one. Oh, we already did that one yesterday. Let's do this one. An employer wants to gross up a relocation bonus of $5,000 and the employee's year-to-date earnings are $139,200. So this is one of those situations where the employee is going to cross that Social Security limit during the gross up. So this was one that I wanted to throw in there for you guys. I know it wasn't in the PowerPoint that Manon sent out to you earlier this week, and Manon or myself will send you an updated PowerPoint with this slide in it after today. So the employee's state has a supplemental tax rate of 3%. And there is also a local supplemental tax rate of 1%. So not only are we doing a big time gross up calculation that's going over the Social Security limit, we're also going to add in a couple more taxes that this person has to pay, which means we have to gross up for more than just federal Social Security and Medicare. So as much fun as I'm sure you guys all want to do, let's do this a little bit together. So keep in mind the Social Security wage base in 2021 is $142,800. This employee's year-to-date earnings are $139,200. So if we subtract those two, we get that $3,600 of the bonus is going to be taxable for Social Security, but only $3,600 of it. So instead of us actually doing the gross up calculation for the $5,000, we're going to figure out the Social Security tax on that $3,600, which is $223.20. add it to our 5,000, and that's the number we're going to use in our gross up calculation. Then we can gross it up for the rest of the taxes that we need to gross it up for, which is Medicare, Social Security we've already taken care of, federal income tax withholding. Since this is supplemental, we're going to use our 22%. And then we have a supplemental state tax rate of 3% and a supplemental local tax rate of 1%. So if we look at all of that stuff, add up all of those taxes, 22% for Fed, 1.45 for Medicare, 3% for state, and 1% for local, we get 27.45 is the total taxes that we need to take into account for this gross up. Again, keep in mind that instead of using 5,000 as our goal, we're now using $5,223.20 because we had to figure out the Social Security on the portion of the bonus that was required to have Social Security withheld. So if we do that $5,223.20 and divide it by 1 minus 0.2745, then we get our answer of $7,199.45. So if you have a gross up calculation that's crossing that Social Security limit, figure out what portion of it is taxable for the Social Security amount, figure out the tax on that, add that to your gross up amount, and that's your target. I've told you guys time and time again that my best piece of advice for gross up calculations to never get them wrong is to check your answers. So you can always verify. Absolutely 100% you can verify. So you're going to take your answer you got of $7,199.45 and subtract out all of your taxes. So if you figured out your federal withholding, which was the 0.22 or 22%, take out that Social Security tax we calculated, take out the Medicare tax, the state tax, the local tax, and you should get down to 5,000. One more quick thing that I wanted to point out on this one is that our answer was $7,199.45, but that amount is not going to go into every single box on your W-2 because you'd hit that Social Security wage base. So the amount that's going to go into the Social Security box on the W-2, the wages is just going to be the additional $3,600 that we calculated was needing to be taxed for Social Security to hit the limit. And then the tax that was associated with that would go in box 4. So, okay. So keep that in mind. That was it. Like I said, there's a few more examples in here that you guys can go through. I just skipped a couple of slides, 3, I think. So I'll send out an updated PowerPoint just because I did add some of those additional gross up calculation slides so that you guys will have that. And then you guys have my email. So if you have questions, you want to chat about anything before your exams, holler at me. I'm happy to do so. What else?
Michelle, you said you had a tip.
Yeah, I had a tip from my director. He took this in 19, his CPP, he's got it. And he wanted to tell us that what he did before the test, and I think this could be applied to the online process, is that you know how you have to hit the button and that's when your time starts, but you have that scratch paper. What he did, and you have 4 hours, you know, what he did, or, you know, FPC, take that scratch paper, write down everything you know on that scratch paper before you hit the button.
That's a great idea.
You already have your, you know, all the limits, all the thresholds, all the, write down as much as you know. And how he did it was he took, now it's great we have this PowerPoint resources, but he made flashcards and on his own. I tried to hunt for flashcards in the very beginning, but he made flashcards with all the tips, all the things, and memorized them and had that stack he had it with him in his car. He had it with him everywhere. And everywhere he had it. And then he had a stack of flashcards, and the ones he knew for sure, he would take those out and get down his flashcard stack to where it was just the ones he still needed to work on.
That's a great
And
idea.
yeah, and then when he got to the test, he wrote everything down. And because back then he said, nobody paid for my test, nobody reimbursed me, so it was my money. And so he,
Yeah.
but that was something that he did. I try to hunt. I haven't, on the flashcards, I think I saw them there as a resource on Amazon or some kind of payroll flashcards, but I just don't know a reliable source. So I haven't ordered them, but I was going to make my own. And then but it's great with the PowerPoint, what you guys have done with the calculations. He's looked at them every time, every week after this. We've been comparing. He's like, great, yeah, I'm glad it's on there. And yeah, the limits, and yeah, he remembers that too. But the biggest thing he was telling me was write down on your scratch paper all the parts that you know.
That's a super good idea. Because when you get in that testing situation,
and it's okay to have it's all okay to have it.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. You can write on that scratch, I guess, and so I guess Manon was saying, who took the electronically online?
Rebecca.
Yeah, and it was like an online scratch paper, so typing it out. So anyway, that was it.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, especially because you're right. Once you hit that button is when your 4 hours starts. So
yeah,
writing
and
it down
then you don't get
beforehand
into your 4 hours writing down things. You've already got it right there. And if you blank out or nervous about your, the test question, you can have it ready. So
absolutely. That's a great idea. Great tip. And I like the flashcards, the ones that take them out, because don't waste your time studying the stuff that you are super confident on. That's a great idea.
Calculations, he said, just redo them over and over and over again. So that was the other. Yeah.
I think people get freaked out about the time frame because it does seem like a lot, 190 questions in 4 hours. And so that scares them. But if you don't take your time on those calculation ones, you're going to get in trouble and you're going to get them wrong. So yes, it takes a little time, but you're better off to take a little extra time and get them right than rush through them and get them wrong. So.
Oh, sure.
Yep. So that's awesome. But you guys have my contact information. You have Manon's contact information if you don't have mine, and she can always get a hold of me. So holler at us if we can help in any way, shape, or form. You guys are awesome. And we hope we can support you in any way. Let us know.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye, guys. Good luck.
You too.